Now, if you remember, we talked about this a couple times before. I think it was last month, maybe the month before too, actually. But we've talked about this, that the railroad workers, they're fighting for a couple of things. Pay, more benefits. They're fighting for sick days. They are also having their health care reduced. So they're fighting for that. They're not asking for the world here. They're just asking for the basic benefits that you should have with any job, any job. And we talked about the fact that the railroad workers, a lot of them are working around the clock. A lot of them are on call. Some of them have to come in at 1 o'clock in the morning. They've been called at 2 o'clock in the morning when they're trying to just spend time with their family. So they're gone away from home for quite a length of time, similar to the truckers, actually. They have a connection here with that. Well, I told you back then that I thought that they should just go ahead and go on strike. They did not. They were waiting to try to make some type of an agreement. And now that they are heading towards going on strike, it might be too late because Joe Biden has decided to step in. Listen to this. Now, this is the statement from President Joe Biden on averting a rail shutdown. This is the press release. Here we go. I am calling on Congress to pass legislation immediately to adopt the tentative agreement between railroad workers and operators without any modifications or delay to avert a potentially crippling national rail shutdown. Now, I told you guys before, this could be our pathway into a general strike. If the railroad workers were to go on strike, that would affect the supply chain. Now, you still have to have those goods to move, right? So what would probably happen next? They would probably try to dump some of that responsibility on the truckers and the port workers, and maybe even some of the people that work at the airlines. But then those industries could also join along with the railroad workers and say, well, no, you're not dumping that responsibility on us. We got our own problems and our own issues. And that's how we could get a general strike. The best way and the most effective way to have a general strike is to shut down the supply chain. Joe Biden knows that, and that's why he's issuing this statement to prevent that from happening. Now, he goes on to say, this agreement was approved by labor and management negotiators in September. On the day that it was announced, labor leaders, business leaders, and elected officials all hailed it as a fair resolution of the dispute between the hardworking men and women of the rail freight unions and the companies in that industry. Now, he is referring to it as a fair resolution, but the workers did not see it as a fair resolution. That's why they have not agreed to this agreement that was offered. People shouldn't have to sit here and fight over having sick days. That should just be given to you. But because we don't have guaranteed sick leave in this country, this is how some of these employers can continue to exploit the workers. I've always had sick pay when I worked in education, but not everyone has the same employer that I had or goes into the same industry that I went into where their employer guarantees some type of sick days. And in the case with the railroad workers, they could take it away. They could reduce it. If we had guaranteed sick pay in this country, this wouldn't even be an issue. But because capitalism, it's allowed to happen. It goes on to say, the deal provides a historic 24% pay raise for rail workers. It provides improved health care benefits, and it provides the ability of operating craft workers to take unscheduled leave for medical needs. Again, he mentions the pay raise. He mentions improved health benefits. I just want to remind you that if we had Medicare for all, the health care benefits wouldn't even be an issue. Employees wouldn't even have to fight over health care benefits. This is another way you can remove this responsibility from the employer. Let's go on. Since that time, the majority of the unions in the industry have voted to approve the deal. During the ratification votes, the secretaries of labor, agriculture, and transportation have been in regular touch with labor leaders and management. They believe that there is no path to resolve the dispute at the bargaining table and have recommended that we seek congressional action. 2 weeks ago, I warned you guys that this was going to happen. Marty Walsh had issued a statement saying we're going to reach out to Congress and get them to jump in. So they're trying to get Congress to make a deal or to make demands, basically, of the railroad workers so that they can't go on strike. Congress should not be in your place of employment. That's problem number one. Problem number two, because they are a part of a union, they should be able to go on strike if they want to. For you to come in and jump in and make demands, this is not acceptable. So it is almost as if they're saying, you're going to do what we tell you to do, whether you like it or not. And to the railroad workers, I would say this: if this goes through and Congress demands that you go back to work and that you cannot go on strike, quit. Quit. What are they going to do? Are they going to drag you out of your home and force you to go to work? I mean, this is like a modern day version of slavery. That's what this is like. I don't know. It's just like, yeah, sorry, we're not going to give you sick leave and sick pay. You're going to go to work anyway. Oh, and by the way, I know you're a part of a union, but you can't go on strike. And this is coming from people. That's right. Shout out to Indy Left. It's a disgrace. This is coming from two people in particular who claim to be pro-union. Marty Walsh was my previous mayor here in Boston. He was a pro-union guy. That was something that he really bragged about and that he really supported when he was here locally. Joe Biden, I'm a pro-union guy. But here are two pro-union guys not being willing to give the workers what they're asking for. They're acting like the railroad workers are out here asking for a kidney. They're just asking for basic benefits. So much for being pro-union. Let's go on. Let me be clear. A rail shutdown would devastate our economy. Without freight rail, many U.S. industries would shut down. My economic advisors report that as many as 765,000 Americans, many union workers themselves, could be put out of work in the first 2 weeks alone. Communities could lose access to chemicals necessary to ensure. Oh, whoops. I skipped something there. What happened? Okay, something happened here. I think I went up too far. Oh, okay. Communities could lose access to chemical necessary to ensure clean drinking water. Clean drinking water. Tell that to people who live in Flint and people that live in Jackson, Mississippi, how well that clean drinking water is working out for them. Farms and ranches across the country could be unable to feed their livestock. Well, that sounds like a general strike to me. That's what that sounds like. That's the whole point. The fact that they're actually trying to force them to work. More people should be livid about this. They have every right to go on strike. What's the point of being a part of a union if you can't even have that option? Shut it down. I'm with you, Indy. Shut it down. All of it. Shut it down. And so his claim here is that the American people would struggle, the American people would suffer. If you just give them their sick days, you give them what they're asking for, this wouldn't even be an issue. And honestly, I'd take it even a step further at this point. If I was one of the rail workers, I would take it a step further and say, okay, you want to play ball. Okay. Well, since you wanted to be an ass about this, while we're at it, we have a couple more demands. We want you to give everybody health care in this country, not just us, everybody. While we're at it, We want you to guarantee sick pay to everyone in this country. We want you to guarantee housing to everyone in this country. We want you to guarantee parental leave to everyone in this country. And we want you to give everyone in this country a living wage, not increasing the minimum wage, give them a living wage. This could be a fight, a big battle. That's what you do. That's what you do. When they already got you by the when they already have you, I was about to say something else. When they already have you, right? And they got your back pressed up against the wall, you come back and demand more. That's what you do. They're trying to tell you you can't strike anyway. You might as well go all in. Go all in. Throw all your cards on the table. It goes on to say, as a proud pro-labor president, I am reluctant to override the ratification procedures and the views of those who voted against the agreement. Here he goes again. I am pro-labor. Pro-labor for who? Pro-labor for the workers or pro-labor for the CEOs and the companies? He goes on to say, I am reluctant to override the ratification procedures and the views of those who voted against the agreement. But in this case, where the economic impact of a shutdown would hurt millions of other working people and families, I believe Congress must use its powers to adopt this deal. Now, you see what they're trying to do, right? He's trying to get this done very quickly before the new year comes, because once the new year comes, GOP has control of the House. And I don't know how they feel on this issue. I'll have to look into that. I don't know how they feel on this issue. But they're trying to push a lot of things through. By the way, they just sent more money to Ukraine. They're trying to push all this stuff through before they lose the House. He goes on to say, I share workers' concern about the inability to take leave to recover from an illness or care for a sick family member. No one should have to choose between their job and their health. Job and health. No one should. No one shouldn't. But that's what happens in a capitalist system. People are doing this all the time. It's not just the railroad workers. You know how many people I've met throughout my life that were working multiple jobs, including myself? You know how many people I know that go to work sick just so they can get paid? A lot of people are doing this. Now, Joe Biden said he cares about this and he shares their concerns. But if you really cared and you shared their concerns, you would do something about it. You would make comments like, if the Medicare for All bill came across my desk, I would veto it. If you really cared about people's health, you wouldn't do that. If you really cared. Joe Biden can say that he shares their concern, but Joe Biden is not in their position. The president of the United States and Congress members, they don't have the same health care plan a lot of people in the United States do. Number one, they have health insurance. And number two, their health insurance is a lot better than a lot of Americans in the United States. So they don't have to worry about that on the health care front. Let's be real. Let's go on. Oh, and by the way, they're not making $7.25 an hour. But what if they were? What if members of Congress and the president, all the political officials in DC, what if they had to have the same whack ass health insurance plan that has these high ass deductibles like a lot of other Americans? What if they had to make minimum wage? What if their salary was $7.25 an hour? Do you think they'd care to make the push then? See, they're not affected. Let's go on. Every other developed country in the world has such protections for its workers. But at this critical moment for our economy, notice the but. In the holiday season, profit. We cannot let our strongly held conviction for better outcomes for workers deny workers the benefits of the bargain they reach and hurl this nation into a devastating rail freight shutdown. You see what he's focusing on here? Economy, holiday season. Same thing I told you last night with the UK postal strike that's happening. Profit, money. Congress has the power to adopt the agreement and prevent a shutdown. It should set aside politics and partisan division and deliver for the American people. Congress should get this bill to my desk well in advance of December 9th so we can avoid disruption. Eric says Santa strike. There you go. So this is Joe Biden trying to prevent any possibility of a general strike happening, because it would start with this. Now there's more. I'm going to get to some of the comments in a second because people have had some things to say about this, including Danny DeVito himself. He said, no, Joe, you're supposed to help the railroad workers. You got it backwards. A handful of sick days. Come on. Workers of the world unite. This is crazy times, you guys. Now, Case Study QB has a clip here where CNN actually interviewed the president of the Brotherhood of Railroad Signalmen about the strike. I want you to hear what they have to say in this interview. Check this out.
So joining me now to discuss is Michael Baldwin. He is president of the Brotherhood of Railroad Signalmen, one of the unions. Still not happy with this deal. Good morning. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Good morning, Jim. Thank you for having me.
So your union is one of four that has so far rejected the Biden administration's agreement brokered back in September to end this strike. Are you and your members ready to strike if there is no progress?
Yes. Striking is the last option for us. We would much rather reach agreement with the railroads at the table. But yes, we are prepared. If Congress does not act in time or act at all, we are prepared to strike. Yes, sir.
Are you
okay? What I would have said here is you should forget about Congress. At this point, you should just do it. At this point, you should just do it. Now, some people are going to hear this and say, that would be a travesty. How dare you give them that advice? Fuck it. At this point in time, nothing else is working. Nothing else. Look, a lot of people lined up to vote for Joe Biden because they thought that he was really going to change things and make things better. We're still having economic issues. In fact, the economy is even worse. A lot of people lined up to vote for progressive members of Congress thinking that they were going to make a change and make a difference because that's what they said. And we watched them go along with establishment Democrats in the Democratic Party. I've watched multiple companies in this country over the past year and a half go on strike and make demands. I've interviewed Starbucks employees on this show who have went on strike and who have started unions, multiple ones, including some that have been fired for doing so. Only in turn to see Starbucks decide to close some of those locations that have been unionized. What else do you do at this point in time? What else do you do except shut the shit down? Let's be real. So if I was Mr. President, Brotherhood of Railroad Signalmen, Michael Baldwin, if I were him, don't wait and decide what Congress is going to do. Just go on strike. Fuck it. You don't owe them anything. At this point, you don't. They couldn't give you a few measly sick days. You don't owe them your time. You don't.
Aware of the economic impact of this? It's a little less than a month right before Christmas here. You know that this would have enormous economic consequences, and I'm not setting aside the concerns of your members, but are you and your members willing to stop the rails in effect and accept those costs to the U.S. economy?
Yes, we as an organization and our members are aware of how this can negatively impact the economy as well as the supply chain that we have today. Unfortunately, this is something that we have attempted to correct. The railroads have the ability to fix this problem, and if they would come to the table and do that, then we could move forward. without congressional action.
You say the railroads have the ability to fix this problem. It seems that the sticking point is on paid sick leave. Can you explain the union's position here?
Sure. So we as a union, for a number of rounds of negotiations, have attempted to address sick time. It's an issue that we've actually, as many organizations in the industry, have attempted to address over 40 or 50 years. To this point, we've been unable to. This became a glaring issue during the pandemic when we had members who were forced by their employer or the railroads to stay home in quarantine without pay. But really it comes down to simple things like the flu for a day or two, or a sick child, and the ability to take a day or two paid when you have to deal with these issues that life brings that you have no control over.
Let's talk about sick time for a second, because he brought up the issue of having a sick child. I don't have kids, but a lot of my coworkers have kids. My friends have kids, or some of my friends have kids. When you have a certain amount of sick time, let's say your job gives you 8 days. If you have a child, you may have to use your sick time for your child if your child is sick. So this is something that people need to understand if you don't have kids. And this is something it kind of woke me up to, because I didn't realize it at the time either. But if you have 8 days of sick time, that's not just for you. So let's say you don't get sick at all, but let's say your child gets the flu and they're out of school for 4 to 5 days. Who is going to sit at home and watch your child? Usually the parent is going to have to take off from work. They're going to have to use their sick time to take care of their sick child. And this is why some of these companies have just said, you know what, screw it. Everybody gets unlimited PTO. For example, my husband's company is that way. They're just like, unlimited PTO. Skip all these numbers. Stop doing all these time slots. Like, just forget this whole 8 sick days, 2 days PTO, 5 vacation days. Just give everybody unlimited sick time. So you'll see this a lot in the tech industry. Everybody should have that. Just unlimited. Like, I don't care. I don't need to know why you took time off. That was another thing I never understand. Is some of these employers like, oh, can I take next Friday off for what? Why do you need to know what I'm doing when I'm not at work? Nobody needs to know this. Nobody needs to know. I don't need to know that you're sick. I don't need to know that you just want to take a personal day. And some companies will say you get 3 personal days. The fuck is a personal day? Just give people unlimited time off and you don't have to worry about this issue. These guys are fighting over sick days. Sick days. Welcome to America.
Understood. And listen, as a working person with a family, I understand those issues, particularly when you have a sick child. The exchange seems to be higher wages here. The pending new contracts for all the unions include an immediate 14% pay raise with back pay going to 2020, pay raises totaling 24% during the 4-year life of the deal. In the past, your union's been willing to exchange, in effect, higher wages for less paid sick leave. Why not now, given these proposed raises?
Yeah, Jim, we have never traded higher wages for not having sick time. The wages that we bargain or at the table, negotiate with the railroads, us and other organizations, we base those, we watch inflation. This particular 24% compounded that you referenced, in the first 3 years, we're not keeping up with inflation. And currently, we don't know what 2023 and 2024's inflation will look like. So we could be ahead by a little bit, but we could also be behind the inflation curve at the end of this agreement.
If you were already being underpaid and now you have inflation and they give you, oh, we gave you a 14% raise, that doesn't really make that much of a difference if you were already underpaid and you were struggling to begin with.
It is, though, these increases are higher than most American workers. National wage growth, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, wages and salaries increased about 5% for the 12-month period ending in September 2022. does not meet all your demands, but it's higher than most American workers are getting.
Did you see him just try to sit up there and divide the workers? You see what he just did? Look at the little smirk on his face. Look at the little smirk. Listen to what he said. I hope more people paid attention to this because he tried to sneak this one in.
So we could be ahead by a little bit, but we could also be behind the inflation curve at the end of this agreement.
It is, though, these increases are higher than most American workers. National wage growth, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, wages and salaries increased about 5% for the 12-month period ending in September 2022, does not meet all your demands, but it's higher than most American workers are getting.
You see what he just did? Well, this agreement doesn't meet all of your demands, but it's actually higher than most American workers are getting. You see how he did that? That's how they try to divide the workers. That's what they do. They try to put us against each other. So now other workers who may be sitting back watching this, who may not be as sympathetic, they're sitting back and they're saying, well, damn, you know what? That's right. That's more than what I get. Why should they get more than me? You see how this works? Oh my God, these guys are complaining about these sick days, but I'm seeing they're paying them more than they're paying me. That's more than what I get. What the hell are they complaining about? Get your ass back to work and quit complaining. This is why the workers in this country are not united, because they pit us against each other. Now, instead of you joining them and helping them and supporting them, now you see them kind of as competition. And you sit back and there's his divide and conquer. So the people who are making less, they don't have the sympathy is starting to dwindle away. What other workers are making has nothing to do with the demands that they are making as railroad workers. You got to think about other things that go into their job. The fact that they're usually on the road, the fact that they're on call, the fact that they were cutting their health care, the fact that they weren't giving them sick pay, all of these other things that go along with it. This is how they keep the workers divided. And I'm really upset to the point that he has a smirk on his face here. It really bothers me. It really bothers me. So let's hear what he says.
Yes, sir, it may be. We're also talking about a highly skilled workforce. Our organization and our members that work for the railroad industry are the front line to safety. We ensure that the traveling public is protected, whether they're driving in a vehicle or whether they're traveling on a train, and many commodities that are hazardous materials as they travel through communities. We are the front line of safety in the industry.
It sounds like.
So you see, they're on the front line. Not anyone can do. It's not like this is a job that anyone can do.
And you're saying this quite clearly. It doesn't sound like it. You are saying that there's no movement on these issues here. You're ready to strike unless there's give on paid sick leave. But it does appear that Congress has the votes to answer the president's call here and, in effect, force an agreement. What does the union do if Congress does act?
Well, if Congress acts, it becomes law. At that point.
Wrong answer. See, this is how you have a group of people that actually have some power. This is how they quickly retreat. Wrong answer. Well, if Congress has the power, well, then that just happens and there's nothing that we can do. No. You don't retreat. You didn't get this far just to throw up your hands in the air and just say, okay, well, Congress said this, so I guess we have to go back to work. What is this? A dictatorship? What country are we living in? Are you kidding me? Go on the damn strike anyway. Walk off the job anyway. What are they going to do? Is AOC going to come drag you out of your home and make you go to work? Come on, people. See, this is how we lose power that we have. And I've seen this happen a couple of times. Occupy Wall Street was another one. That was a moment when we really had a chance. We had like some power. Killed it. The George Floyd protest, millions of people in the street across the world. Joe Biden wins. Most of the protesters go back home. Killed it. Just like that. This is not a time to roll over. Those of you that are part of the railroad workers, you came too far. If you got this far, you keep going. You keep pushing and you keep trucking along, because I'm sorry, but like, are you going to go back to the same decrepit working conditions because Congress told you so? Are you going to stand your ground? This would not happen. This would not happen in my parents' day. This would not happen in my grandparents' day. This wouldn't happen. How do you think we got a labor movement? But it's just today, it's just like, I don't know, man. It's just like Americans today are just like, well, yeah, we're going to try to fight. We're going to try to do this. Well, Congress said such and such and such and such. Oh, okay. Well, I guess we got to go back home. Stop police brutality. Defund the police. Well, Joe Biden has won the presidency of the United States. Oh, okay. I guess we'll just go home. This is why we don't get anywhere. This is why we don't get anywhere today. You would have never seen this type of, okay, we'll just go ahead and do that with the civil rights movement. What if Dr. King and all the civil rights activists just fell back like that? Oh God, here come the cops with the dogs. That's it, we quit. They ain't sicking dogs on you, bruh. They're not even sicking dogs on you. They're not beating you up. They're not throwing you in jail. Why are you ready to fold?
We will work under the agreement that is enforced or the recommendation, whatever Congress comes out with. At that point, that's our choice, and we'll continue to fight this battle as we return to the bargaining table in a mere 2 years.
Final question, if I can. Biden?
So you're going to go on and continue working for the company for 2 years under those same conditions and then say, okay, we'll come back another 2 years. No. I understand that, Spanky. And well, I don't know some of that name. Spanky the monkey. Sabby, a strike must be legal. If not, the Biden administration will decertify the union, which I assume is exactly what rail companies want. Read about Patco strike. I totally understand that. But they can quit. They can quit and go get another job. Go get another one of these jobs that Joe Biden keeps bragging so much about. All these new jobs he created. Go somewhere else. But just don't. No. M. Smith says, so you're going to take it on the chin for 2 years. That's my whole point. You guys going to put up with this again for another 2 years? This is why I wanted them to join the truckers. I wanted them to contact the truckers and say, hey, we got a situation here. You guys on board to join us? And then contact the port workers and say, hey, we have a situation here. You guys want to join us? Could you imagine how powerful that would have been if all three of them jumped on board? And then you show up to Congress, since they want to make rules for you. You show up to Congress with a list of demands, not just for your industry, but for every person in the United States. I got to talk to civil rights activists, man. I got to talk to civil rights activists from my grandparents' time. And the reason being is because they never gave up that quickly. They never just like, okay, bye. I'm going to go to some of the comments here. I see I have a lot of chats here. Thank you for the super chat. Dino, great work, Sabby. It's great to see your channel grow. Been watching since the beginning. Oh, wow, Dino, you've been with me for a minute then. Thanks for the super chat, Roger. Bounce back, nah. Ain't number one watching Cuomo. Ain't no one watching Cuomo. Thank you for the super chat, M. Smith. Waiting gives the devil time. This is what I was saying. They took too long, man. They took too long. Thank you for the super chat, Andrew. Longshoremen are already considering a strike in the Bay Area over terrible conditions and schedules and possibly privatizing the port of Oakland. I'm very curious whether rail workers will defy Congress. You guys hear this? Thank you for the super chat, NK. Rank and file know that the union bosses are compromised. They don't work for the people on the ground. That's another problem too. Is that a pug? I love the little pugs, if that's a little pug. Greg Bruce says Biden sounds like typical management taking to union, or excuse me, I think that's talking. Biden sounds like typical management talking to union employees. LOL. Thank you for the super chat, Colin. Biden preventing workers to strike sounds fascist to me. But wait, I thought the GOP were the fascist ones. Thank you for the super chat, M. Smith. I wish we could give them money, but I bet the payment processors will shut it down the way they did in Canada for the truckers. That is a good point. I wish we could give them money too. Thanks for the super chat, Dorian. The society doesn't provide health insurance nor sick leave. We, the people, now have to bargain for these benefits, and the government won't back us. And we government won't back us. I think you meant, and the government won't back us. And thank you for the super chat, Reverend Edmund Bolela. The Democrats are again doing the bidding of their corporate paymasters. Dignity and fairness for rail workers. This is what democracy looks like. Labor must organize for democracy to flourish. And thank you for the super chat, Colin. Their tentative agreement looks similar to my proposed teacher contract. Huge focus on the pay, but nothing on the benefits because they didn't change. That's a good point. Candleboat says mutual aid, strike kitchens, and solidarity forever. Thank you for the super chat, NK. Did the owners get only a 5% raise? Probably not. Thank you for the super chat, Nambians. Workers of the world unite. Yes. Like this is what they're trying to do in the UK right now. They're uniting across industries. Blue Moon Red Wine is here. NFL was so close to strike. That was so lame when that happened. Every time, I'm telling you. Thank you for the super chat, Kyle. Repeal Taft-Hartley. Thank you so much for that. And I'll take those comments on Rockfin, Eric. Thanks so much. Ooh, Tay. Thank you for the tip on Rockfin, Roger Meadows. Sab, in regards to unions, should also demand for things beyond their members extending to the rest of us. That's right. Although that'd be great, but I've never known unions to ever look out for anyone but members. We are experiencing this in New York as they're the biggest opponents to the New York Health Act, because that's what leadership uses to hold over members' heads and propagandize them into being against it. However, I do acknowledge workers do by default inherit what they fought for out of fear. We might unionize. Unfortunately, this leaves people out. We need a total transformation of the system. This is why co-ops need to outnumber unions, simple as that. Time we start pushing ballot initiatives that provide a pathway to make easier to form co-ops. Well said, Roger. Well said. And thank you for this tip as well. Start, build, proliferate co-op supply chains, running parallel to corporate supply chains to box out to replace corporations, then take over the government. Also, you said what I've been thinking, turn the word strike into walk. There you go. Just walk out. Just walk out.